Welcome to the Collectible Network. I got to tell you, the idea for the Collectible Network started because of wanting to have a network that covers all aspects of all collectibles, but obviously we're starting in the sports card space. And the vision to have, this is a small version of the vision, but is to have the way that ESPN has a pop-up studio at the Super Bowl that pops up and, streaming live or covering it as an event. And the idea was to have this done for the National this year, but because of lots of reasons, scheduling and COVID, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But congratulations on everything that the National has become. And what have things been like over the past couple of years with COVID and all that, and how it's changed the National, and how it was great to have everybody back this year?
That's a great question. When we concluded the National in 2019, the industry was strong. We felt we had a lot of momentum. We had a lot of things going for us. We had more kids than we ever expected on the floor. We had families, mothers, daughters, grandparents. Leaving Chicago, we felt, hey, this is going to be a great show in Atlantic City. Unfortunately, that didn't happen in 2020. But the industry, survived. The industry surged, and we were very fortunate. Going into 2021, there are a lot more, let's say, outsiders, a lot of international, and we saw that on our social media. And I think with investors and influencers and everything coming about, it was stronger than ever. So, Chicago for us was gangbusters, and it just speaks volumes to the industry. And I think we did a survey at the National online, and basically like 50 to 60% of the people that replied were first-time attendees. And so, that is a great signal for us going forward. And even now with the industry summit, we have over 400 plus registered. We could have sold 500. So very excited about the industry. And I love the fact things that you're doing, because I think that adds to the professionalism and the quality. And me being a director of communications, I'm all about content.
Awesome.
So I think it's awesome. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. Absolutely. There's so much news that that's why we wanted to be the National, why it was so crucial to be here at the Industry Summit. Let's do it piecemeal first. Remember the days when PSA and BGS not being able to accept cards was the biggest news in the hobby?
No.
What was that? How did you take that news? You had to see that coming down the pipe with your connections. How did that change things for the people that you deal with that are dealers or collectors or whatever? How have you seen that put ripples through the industry?
Well, like you said earlier, we were in a very unprecedented time.
Yeah.
And a lot of things are happening, not just that.
Yeah.
And so, you look at it and you look at the landscape and you say, how do we weather this situation? And I think because for me, my opinion, because the e-commerce took off and business was good, a lot of things were able to come into play and get structured and get straightened out.
Yeah.
And I think just the strength of the industry pulled us to the point where we are now. But having said that, with growth comes change. And we're going through a time right now where there's a lot of uncertainty, but from a good side, not necessarily a bad side. We just have to learn how to pivot. We have to learn how to adjust. And for those that can and those that do, it'll be fantastic. So from our point, like with the National, we saw that, we see that, and we've got a great team of managers at the National, and even with the Industry Summit too. So I think we're going down the right path, but at the same time, all these doors are opening, a lot of doors are shutting. You just need to be understanding and stay the course.
People fear change. That's just the way that it is. And to be honest, if you look back at the industry through the decades, there's new card companies that pop up. There's companies that fail. There's constant kind of change. So staying the course is crucial, I think.
Well, that's a good point. And you think about it, all our people that are out there, the people that are kind of leading the industry now, the influencers per se, they don't mind risk. You know, they don't look at it the same way somebody says, well, you know, hey, it's good today, it'll be good tomorrow. Well, that's not the case.
Right.
And most of our influencers are people that say, listen, I'm going to go out there and I know there's going to be change. I know there's going to be risk. We're going to deal with it when we have to. And that, I think that what really leads to success. I think more and more people in our industry are understanding that now and go and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go outside of my box and I'm going to start making decisions that, you know, maybe I wouldn't have made 3 years ago, 5 years ago.
Sure.
And so with others leading that path, that course, I think more and more are going to be a little bit more of a comfort level.
Can you let me know how you first heard of the news of Fanatics, first with Topps and the MLB, and then with Panini and the NBA and NFL? How did that information get to you? I mean, I feel like it really, you know, I've spoken to people inside of several key companies that we're talking about here that literally themselves didn't know about this and see this coming. So how did you find out, and what were your feelings when you first heard?
You know, I found out of it because I was talking to an agent friend of mine, and he's connected with Fanatics, and he got a text from one of the higher ups in Fanatics, and he shared that with me, and you know, I thought about it, and I said, you know, that's okay. It's a little surprising, but not that much, you know. And I go back to the times, you know, I did a lot of consulting with the leagues, you know, back with the All-Star games and the Super Bowls with the Fan Fest and the collecting side of it. And I saw how when back then we had like hundreds of licensees, and then Nike came in, and then Nike kind of took over a lot of what was, you know, in the past, and so I saw that change. So it didn't really surprise me. The timing may have surprised me. The timing with Topps surprised me a little bit, but it's, you know, I tell people that you can't rest on your laurels. I don't care if you're a brick and mortar store. I don't care if you're an e-commerce platform or a social media company. You just can't say, hey, you know what? I did a good job today. It's going to be there for me tomorrow. You know,
and that's not to say that Panini or Topps had done anything wrong at all, but it's just American ingenuity that somebody comes up and changes the game, and then everything has to pivot. Everybody must act differently.
Yeah.
On one hand, I think, you know, Fanatics is to be applauded for, you know, stepping up and changing the game. I mean, giving a piece to the players' unions and things like that is just not the way that it had been done before. That doesn't mean that it shouldn't have been done that way, but it just hadn't been.
Well, if you listen to like Michael Rubin, and just from like the past couple of years, he's all about, you know, database and cross-selling, and so it shouldn't surprise you.
Yeah.
You know, and then when you go and he talks, he's one of those kind of influencers where he talks outside the box, and, you know, the sky's the limit. So, you know,
that's the way I talk about the collectible network.
Yeah, you know, so that shouldn't surprise you. I still think there's a lot more to come. You know, that may shock some people, but like you said,
like what? What do you envision?
I just mean, you know, the consolidation. You know, throughout the country, and from how we buy and how we sell, how it's distributed. All those things are still being worked out.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny because people are here asking those questions, but I don't think those questions can be answered yet.
I agree.
Because I don't even think Fanatics knows yet.
I agree.
You know, I think they have the big picture. They understand that, and they're more than capable of taking that and working it down. So, but it'll be interesting the next couple of years in terms of how it plays out with the relationships.
It's funny because we're not coming here as journalists. We're coming here as collectors ourselves and fans of the industry. And so asking questions to distributors like that, you know, I almost feel guilty because it's like they don't really know. You know, nobody really knows
But you feel compelled to ask
questions.
Yes,
yes, because more than anything else, I'm really interested in hearing everybody's perspective right now. Not to aha, gotcha later on, But things evolve, and what you think of as fact now might be, something that doesn't make sense later, and that's not your fault.
Well, and I'll take something relevant to like the National. And if you think about it, there are so many trading card shows out there right now.
Yes.
They're popping up all throughout the country. And that's a good sign that the industry is strong. We for the first time, we had a card show here at the Industry Summit. It's a 2-day card show. We did it because we knew that there was underlying strength and a want and a need. But I tell you what, it really exceeded my expectations because, Friday at 10 a.m., we had a line, people coming in. And that really, and I've done a lot of shows, that wasn't expected.
I promise to be precious with your time, so I just want to ask a couple quickies and then let you go. First off, how many years have you been connected with the National?
12 years.
Okay. In those 12 years, what is your one single favorite moment? Whether it be a guest, whether it be a card that was pulled, sold, somebody falling through a table, what? There's got to be something that sticks in your head.
If I'm going to be honest with you, it was having my 12-year-old son come work with me at the National in Chicago.
That's great.
And he spent all 5 days. He worked with the media. He worked with HBO Sports.
He's 12?
He's 12 years old.
So had he been before and just wasn't as old to kind of grasp the magnitude?
He had visited me when we did the show in Atlantic City for about 2 or 3 hours. So he kind of walked the floor, but then left. And so, and it was great for me because he doesn't really know what I do. And so put things in perspective, but he was all in. And he was loving it, and he got to meet so many different great people. And he's not real collector yet.
He will be.
And we had dinner with Thurman Thomas. And,
as you will, as one might.
But he didn't know who Thurman Thomas was.
Of course not.
And we didn't really go into it. But
He's just a nice guy that knew sports.
But to your point, though, that was an awesome moment for me.
Yeah.
Because it was a bonding thing, and I always say that about the National. The thing I love about the National is when I go down the aisles and I see a dad and a son talking.
Yep.
And I've seen this where the dad is talking to the son and saying, this Mickey Mantle jersey. Mickey Mantle was a great player when I was growing up, and then the son returned to the dad and said, "Dad, no, it's Judge. It's Judge. I mean, he's the guy." But it's that connection.
Yep.
That they have. And as I alluded to earlier, now, in Chicago, this past show, the mothers are there. And
see, that's
the
great.
daughters and the grandparents are there.
Yep.
And so I think we got to give credit to the manufacturers and the exhibitors because, they have brought in and they create promotions, that directly affect that. So, I think that's the second thing that's most important to me is the fact that we're bringing in families.
Very cool. What name 2 athletes that you think in 3 years are going to be skyrocketed in value from where they are right now?
Well, see, now you got me because I'm not a speculator.
Well, just do it by finger on the pulse of what you've heard and the people that are dealers and speculators.
Well, obviously basketball's hot.
Yep.
Giannis is a guy that I think, and Luka, those guys are from a collector's perspective. We
make videos with Luka for the Dallas Mavericks every year.
I don't know. You could tell me. Maybe he's already there. But I think he has more upside. But and football is obviously you got to pick a quarterback, right?
Yep.
And there's so many of them now. There's so many good ones out there, young ones, that it's really hard. Even like Zach Wilson with the Jets.
Yeah.
Apparently he's having a good start. So, but I think that's one of the reasons why we're in a position where we are because we're kind of at the mercy of the rookies.
Sure.
Depending upon what sport.
Yeah.
But as prolific as they start out and they become is how the industry goes.
Last question, and the roundabout way of asking how'd you get here, but the specific thing that I want to ask, what's the first thing that you collected? whether it be a card or a GI Joe or a car or something. Like, what is the one thing that lit the fuse that now has let you sitting here being ahead of the national?
I'm going to date myself.
Well, that's the idea.
But it was Beatles cards.
Really?
Beatles trading cards back in the day. And then
you got a rookie Ringo?
I don't. I was the one that put him in the spokes.
Of course.
But you know what? I look back and as I still have fond memories of that, and so that's something that's precious to me. But the one thing I do collect, I mean, you know, I've represented Don Mattingly since 1984. So I got a lot of stuff, you know, that's relevant to him and other players. But
that '84 Donruss card was one of the holy grails when I was a kid collecting.
But at one point, you know, living in New York, I decided, you know, I love the concept of collecting. You know, people talk about trading cards and memorabilia. I think it's all just, I mean, take that away and just say collecting.
Yep.
Collecting is what it's all about, the concept.
Yep.
And that's what really drives, to me, the success. So one of the things I love to collect are movie posters.
You are speaking my language. That's why we have the Collectible Network, because it is going to be reaching out into areas just like that. What's your favorite movie poster?
Well, you know, Rawhide.
Oh, yeah.
Rawhide, you know, anything.
Hitchcock?
No, well, one of the things, you know, when I decided I wanted to do movie posters, you know, I said structure guidelines, right? Well, it had to be pre-60.
Okay.
It had to be vintage. It had to be, you know.
Do you have a Gone with the Wind?
No, it had to be sports.
Okay.
So, you know, yeah. So I was kind of structuring. You know, I think when you collect, you have to have that. You know, you have to have direction. You have to have an understanding. It's not, you just can't collect anything, because to me it's the hunt.
Yep.
You know, and you know, yeah, Gone with the Wind. I mean, although that's very expensive. I wanted to make it, and it had to be U.S. And the reason why I got to that point was because somebody told me a story early on about how those movie posters were distributed. You know, back in 1910 or 1920, 30s. You know, that you had to, a movie house, the only way they got the next picture is that they sent back the movie posters.
Really?
And so for me, I started thinking, well, wow, then it really is a collectible.
Yeah, very rare.
It's rare. And you know, back in the early days, and maybe when there was 100 movie houses, right, throughout the country, and back then, the movie posters were like painted, hand painted, and they're
they must
beautiful.
be incredible.
They don't make movie posters like they do anymore.
Yeah.
You know? And so those are things that went into my mindset when it comes to collecting, and so I've kept that.
That's
now
awesome.
I've branched out a little bit. I mean, I love the. You know, the Hardy Boys and you know, Abbott Costello.
Oh yeah,
because I love their themes. You know,
Buster Keaton.
Well, yeah, Buster Keaton.
I love Buster Keaton.
I love that. But that's, so for me, that's what I like. You know, would I love to own like a $50,000 trading card? Yeah, but that's not me.
Yeah.
I love that aspect. When somebody asks me what I collect, it's movie posters, vintage movie posters.
Very, very cool. All right. Thank you for the time. I didn't want to waste any more of it, but I really appreciate you sitting down here on Unpacking on the Collectible Network.
I enjoyed it.
The great Ray Schulte of the National.